Pfizer is now the first COVID vaccine company to seek FDA approval to give its vaccine to teenagers. This as top administration health officials express concern over a spike in cases among young people. The Biden administration is working to increase the number of vaccination sites around the country. But as Natalie Brand reports, some locations are bracing for a major decrease in supply from one vaccine maker.
Friday, Pfizer formally requested the FDA to amend their emergency use authorization to expand use of their vaccine to young people 12 to 15 years old. This comes as federal health officials remain worried about a troubling rise in youth cases.
There is concern about transmission in youth sports. As cases increase in the community, we expect the cases identified in schools will also increase.
CDC Director Rochelle Walensky also notes an uptick in cases and ER visits among younger adults, most of them not yet vaccinated. Federal health officials are especially concerned about the caseload in the upper Midwest and say they're surging personnel to the region. To help vaccinate people as quickly as possible, the administration says it's added the number of pharmacies offering vaccines in the federal pharmacy program to now 30,000, and it aims to add nearly 10,000 more in the next 10 days. But supply concerns remain with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is expected to see a drop of 86% next week in its number of doses. And health officials are looking into reports of several incidents of dizziness and other reactions in 4 states after people there received the J&J vaccine.
It is an excellent vaccine. It is one and done. These are minor reactions in a very, very small number of people.
CBS News medical contributor Dr. David Agus says the public should not be concerned with the vaccine, but some J&J sites in North Carolina and Georgia have paused distributing the vaccine for now. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.